Order. Roll call, please, Mary.
Right, Chair Jason Branch,
Here.
Vice Chair Elizabeth Wybeen. Georgia Keyport. Here. Zach Zaresig,
Here.
Danielle Haie,
Here.
Harley Whitner,
Here.
Michael Hauer, Gary Schworm,
Here.
Kevin Hill,
Here.
Sam Hassan.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Item number 3, adopt agenda. Does anybody have any issue with the agenda as written? Discussion? Not, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
We adopt the agenda.
Second.
Second.
Resick. Item number 4 is visitor presentations. None. We will move to item number 5, approve previous meeting minutes. Any discussion on previous meeting minutes? Anybody? If not, I will ask for a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes.
I move to approve the meeting minutes for February 13th.
Thank you.
I'll
Sitch?
second.
Hi. Approved. All right, number 6, receive council and planning meeting minutes. We have 6A, city council meeting minutes from February 5th, March 4th, April 1st, and April 15th. And also planning meeting minutes from December 13th, February 14th, and March 13th. Does anybody have any comments on either of those two? Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot for us in that one. No need for approval of those. So we will move on to item 7, action items. 7A, recommend city council approval of Chaska Community Center Master Plan Report and the acceptance of the Citizen Task Force recommendation.
All right, good evening, Chair and Commissioners. It's good to be back on a regular meeting. Last couple of months, we've held work sessions, so lots of updates for you tonight. But first off, starting out with our action item regarding the community center master plan. So you've all seen this presentation in a previous work session that we were able to preview with the city council. So this will be a little bit of a repeat, but it's important for us to go through this because this all ultimately becomes more of that public record for the residents to be able to access this presentation. And then from here, we'll be, seeking your recommendation to bring it to city council, which we've got that coordinated and lined up for their next meeting coming up next Monday, May 20th. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump in. So first off, what I'd like to do is really recognize all the different groups who helped create this master plan. Starting out with the Citizen Task Force. So when we embarked on this project, we really felt like it was important to get a wide representation of our community to serve on this task force. And it was actually great to see that there was a lot of interest when we first put this opportunity out there. I think we had close to 45 or 50 individuals come forward and expressing an interest to serve on this task force, which led us to go through a kind of an interview process to be able to bring forward a recommendation to our city council and their appointments of these individuals on the task force. So we've got a couple individuals from City Council, John Graw and Taylor Hubbard. From the Parks and Recreation Commission, we had Rhoda Hassan, our youth representative, Donnell Hayai and Zach Saresig. From the Planning Commission, we had Otter Vansky, who's with us tonight and going to be a part of the presentation. With the Human Rights Commission, Martin Hubbard. We had a couple of school district representatives, and Sue Harberts, who is the Director of Community Education, Jeff Ross. And then we had some community center members that were part of the task force, which was Rachel Hernandez, Ranuk Jaggi, Ellie Kramer, Dave Rohn, and Jacqueline Branikar. And then we also had just some general community members. That was Medina Abshir, Angie Bolstead, Gracia Lozano, and Mac Willems. So it was a lot of fun to get to know the various people on that task force throughout this planning process, and just really appreciate the time and passion and all of their feedback and input that went into this plan.
Marshall, too, I think one interesting note is that Mac, I think we talked about this before, Mac was part of the original,
Oh, yeah, good.
that put together the original community center plan.
Yep, good point there.
Yeah.
So it's neat to have his perspective
Yeah.
just from the very beginning.
Once in a while, he'd have a little anecdote to share about, well, when we did this 35 years ago, and it's like, wow, that was actually a really interesting perspective to have, and to have him here today involved in this was really cool.
Yep.
Mac.
And then we also had a project management team. So this was city staff that represented multiple departments. So we had Chris Lindahl, our marketing manager, Elise Durbin, our assistant city administrator, Aaron Link, our recreation program manager, John Schmidt, our building official, Julie Jenke was with our police department, Kelsey McNutt, our community center manager, Kevin Wright, communications manager, Mary Monteith, the assistant to the Park and Rec director, Matt Burt, who was our in finance, Matt Podorowski, our city administrator, Nate Cabot, our community development director, and then Nicholas Hartwig, who is our buildings maintenance foreman. So this was the team of staff that really met with the consultants on a more ongoing basis throughout the planning process. So we'd take information from the meetings we had with the citizen task force, and then, keep moving this process along in coordination with our consultant group. So also big thank you to those staff and their involvement in helping to shape this plan. And then Perkins and Will, they were the consultants that we worked with on this project. There was Chris Kostelic, who was the lead principal on this plan. John Slack, who really kind of headed up a lot of the community engagement and facilitation there. And then Catherine Watson, who was the project architect. And Perkins and Will ultimately then contracted out several sub-consultants to weigh in on this plan. So you had Mashad Cooley Erickson. They were the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers, BKBM engineers, who provided structural and civil engineering, Walker Consulting Group. They were the consultants that helped parking and traffic engineering. Ballard King, they helped provide input on the market analysis and operations. And then RJM Construction provided all of the cost estimation that went in. And so a lot of expertise in the shaping this plan. So thank you to all of them as well. And then it goes without saying, a big thanks to the community. They were a big part of shaping this plan, just in the variety of engagements that we held. and it was valuable for those that did choose to participate and communicate, the things that they were looking forward to in this plan. Because ultimately we wanted to, make sure that we're, hearing that feedback and then, using that along with some other variables to really kind of shape the plan altogether. And we'll talk a little bit more about the process in a little bit. And then I want to take a moment to just talk a little bit about why we created this master plan to begin with. So back when we actually started this, it was December 6th, 2021, when I went before city council to talk about why we needed to develop a master plan and gain their authorization to move forward in seeking out a consultant and developing a citizen task force. So this has been about a 2-year process to get to this point, but a big part of why we needed to develop a community or a master plan was the fact that the community center was over 30 years old and starting to kind of show its age. And throughout that, the life of this facility, there has not been a funding source for depreciation. And so several deferred maintenance items were starting to add up. Large mechanicals and things of that nature start to achieve the end of their life, once you start hitting that 20, 30-year mark. And quite frankly, we've been in a lot of reaction mode as of recently. And so I felt it was important for us to develop a master plan primarily around that, so we can really kind of get our arms around what it's going to take to, really just kind of sustain the facility going forward. Another thing that came, a lot of feedback that we get oftentimes is that the parking lot challenges, and that's kind of in conjunction with, the fact that the facility, gets a lot of use and into some challenges that the parking lot presents. And I think it was probably one of the highest pieces of feedback we got throughout the engagement process was that the parking lot needs to get looked at. It creates a lot of traffic congestion, and there's safety concerns when people are trying to navigate from the school campus across Park Ridge Drive over to the community center.
Also creates a lot of stress.
Yeah, so and
Everybody.
go to the community center to de-stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was kind of another reason why we wanted to develop a plan. 30 years ago, the recreation trends were different than they are today. So I felt like if we're going to do a plan and look at the deferred maintenance, it was really an opportunity at this 30-year mark to create a vision for the future and what this facility could be for the next 30 years. So wanted to account for the fact that those trends have changed, and maybe the intentions of when it was built to begin with is a little bit different today. Along those lines, the community demographics have changed over the last 30 years. I think it was noted that when this facility was built back in 1990, I think the population would have been right around 11,000 people, and here we are today at almost 28,000 people, continuing to grow, more development going to the west. And, in the demographics throughout that populations is different today than it was 30 years ago. So we wanted to account for that in the plan and really take that opportunity to engage our residents in a conversation around the community center. So those were a lot of kind of building and trend-based reasons, but I would say, by and large, the big reason is for us to continue to provide this wonderful service to our community. We're seeing over 1 million visitors per year come through our doors. And I just show this screen as a way to just see a snapshot. This isn't even accounting for all the groups. We couldn't even fit them all on the screen, but you can just see the whole variety of user groups that the community center accommodates on a year-to-year basis. I think it provides a lot of vibrancy for our community. Every day I walk through that facility, I'm just amazed at, you know, the amount of people that are in there and all the variety of programming that exists within that space. So that's really what this master plan is about, to keep this wonderful facility going, even though it's aging, and create a vision for us to reinvest back into it, into the future. So with that, I'm going to now turn it over to Donnell, who was served on the Citizen Task Force, to talk about the planning process.
There's a really nice timeline at the very bottom that does kind of outline the last 2 years. It doesn't feel like it's been 2 years. That's just crazy, but we've used all of the time. So part of the planning process was looking at our existing building and site and saying what absolutely needs to be fixed and what would be an improvement. What can we do here? That included also a look at what does our market look like? If we were to expand offerings here, which homes, which areas in the surrounding neighborhoods would we be looking to capture? Are there any gaps in what we're offering? Would we actually have the market to grow into? We know that Chaska and Carver County are growing, but can we actually sustain more people here at the community center? Does this need exist? We looked at existing program evaluation. Are we using what we have effectively? Are we bursting at the seams? Are we finding that we don't have enough programming? What kind of programming do people want to see here? Can we accommodate that now, or do we need to expand our offerings with a new sections to the facility, or can we add those as is? There's a lot of community engagement, which we will go over on the next slide. Then we developed the master plan concept. Of course, did a cost evaluation several times. There were a couple of meetings that were specifically about how much will this cost? How much will our deferred maintenance cost? How much will all of these different phases? As you'll see, it's broken into kind of like a la carte options. Which option do you like? What would this give our community? How much would that cost? And then there was also an enterprise evaluation, which was part of this, but could also be looked at separately. Should the community center be expected to operate and cover its own costs? And there's some really interesting slides later on that break that down by community. Next slide, please. I was really impressed with a lot of the community engagement. Sometimes we often see a lot of negative talk on different online forums about different initiatives that the city has. And it was really fun to be able to go to these community engagement activities and see how excited our community is about the community center and about what we could potentially offer. And a lot of the community engagement and feedback that we were given was what we offer right now. And it wasn't, other than an expanded outdoor lap pool, there wasn't a whole lot that we heard about that couldn't somehow be finagled as is. And by as is, I mean, everything at the community center that's broken being fixed, but somehow we're able to find the programming, the time, and the desire to offer those gaps. So there were 2 open house events, June and August of 2023. One of those was very, very well attended, and people got to write down what their favorite things were at the community center. They got to write on a board over in the hockey area. They got to say what they felt was missing. Just the engagement was amazing to see. There were 2 rounds of online surveys. There were over 900 responses. There were 12 different user group meetings. So that included the tenants, school district, library, active older adults that use the lodge, hockey association, church staff, a whole bunch of different groups. And so we got feedback from all of them. There were meetings with the city managers from Chanhassen, Victoria, and Carver, and the specifics of those meetings, Marshall would have to expand on if anyone has any questions. But I do know we have community center reciprocity with Carver, but I don't know if we have that with Chanhassen and Victoria, correct?
We do not.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the primary goal of those meetings is really to just talk about some of the things we're thinking about, you know, trying to understand whether or not those communities were looking at doing anything, you know, pertaining to similar types of programming or whatnot, you know, generally in an effort to not duplicate services if we don't need to.
And then there are various informational booths at city events like Fire and Ice, Touch a Truck, Chaska River City Days. And then there was also a project website and social media. Next slide. The top themes were pretty consistent no matter which group you were talking about. I would say that the active older adults leaned a little bit more heavily towards added pickleball, whereas there were a lot of younger families that really leaned more heavily towards indoor play space. But as Marshall alluded to earlier, improved safety of the parking lot and increased parking capacity was hands down the biggest complaint of everybody, to the point where we would give a talk or have information to say, other than parking, which we absolutely 100% will address, what feedback do you have? So that's really the point we got to. So everyone wants to see parking capacity increase.
Can I just add to that really quick,
Yeah.
that anybody that I've shared, like friends of mine or other community members about this project going on, it didn't take them more than a couple milliseconds to go, you're gonna do something about the parking, right? Every single conversation, hands down. So clearly that was a big message from everybody that we all have experienced too, so.
And if you remember the presentation that we gave, the work session with city council, we even left parking to the very end because that's such an easy win that you want the other pieces of this master plan to be heard fully. You don't want people, okay, good, they're gonna fix parking, all right. Expanding the fitness center and adding more workout variety was also a huge theme. I think people were really happy. No one was happy during COVID, but everyone was happy with the space that we had for fitness during COVID at the community center. And that was hard to squish it back together. Improving the pool area with new features, more lap swimming, and fixing the hot tub were obviously on a lot of people's minds. That having a broken piece of equipment for a long period of time is an eyesore for sure. Improved locker rooms, more functional locker rooms, larger and more exciting indoor playground. Improving the ice arena with more lobby area, seating, locker rooms, and better support services. If I recall, the hockey community was very, very engaged in the meeting that they had specifically. More gym space, improving the main entrance lobby so it's more functional. Right now, people can kind of walk right past it. Making more use of the theater, making sure that it's actually being used as much as we can have it be used. More programming in areas for teens and young adults. That's obviously been consistently identified as a gap in community center programming. And then taking care of deferred maintenance and replacing the roof. And I know that one's at the end, but that's just an obvious has to happen. The task force was able to work with Perkins Will on guiding principles and objectives. And this was after a lot of the community engagement had come in already. We were able to meet and really talk about, well, what does the community center mean to us? What does it mean to our community based on the feedback we've been given? And so what are we going to be working towards here? Unlike other large buildings in the area, we were very intent on reinvesting in our existing building and working with the footprint that we had. How can we make our current building work for us? Because it's a huge facility, and it was really reaffirming to hear one of the subcontractors for Perkins and Will and say, I cannot believe that originally this building was built with this square footage for the community size at the time. So that felt really good to say, okay, we haven't outgrown it, but we can definitely use it in a more effective manner. So reinvest in the multi-purpose facility to continue serving as a community recreation and gathering place into the future. And I want to highlight gathering because that is not always a revenue stream. People need places to gather in their community. Welcoming people of all cultural, economic backgrounds, ages, abilities, and interests to access a facility that improves the health and wellness of both individuals and the community. And something we also talked about here with funding is how do we make sure that everybody of every economic background can continue to come to the community center? It's easy to say, well, let's hike up prices, and that's just not a sustainable model for our community. And then create experiences that build community, foster a sense of pride, and develop lifelong memories. I will say several people throughout this process have spoken about growing up in the community and having birthday parties and just life milestone activities happening at the community center. So our objectives became plan for deferred maintenance items, of course, including replacement of the roof. It would be tragic to see this facility as it is just fall into disrepair to where we can't use it anymore. Address current parking lot challenges by looking at the entire campus that includes the surrounding schools and opportunities that may exist with the adjacent school district properties to increase the amount of parking, improve circulation, and provide safe pedestrian and bicycle access. Repurpose and or redesign underutilized areas of the building to maximize space that exists. And that was particularly fascinating to see what we could do with the existing space. Design multi-use spaces that can meet the changing needs of the community into the future. Respond to extensive community input and feedback by improving and or expanding the amenities and programs valued the most. Continuing to have an arts presence in the community center was identified as an objective, and then improving circulation throughout the building while also reducing the number of entry points into the building. Continuing, connect to nature by capturing the views of the Minnesota River Valley and designing outdoor spaces around the community center. The lodge has beautiful vistas, and we really miss out on certain areas of the community center where we have just walls. Add storage in strategic locations to improve efficiency and flexibility. Determine the operating expenses and cost allocations of each of the major components of the building. Evaluate current programming performance metrics and trends to help guide future operations and building design. Determine the proper mix of revenue sources so the facility can be financially sustainable into the future. We don't want to have this discussion in 30 more years. How are we going to pay for the deferred maintenance? Maybe there isn't any deferred maintenance. Maybe we can just figure out a way to keep it going. And then defining financing strategies to fund the building improvements recommended in the plan. And Matt Podorowski was quite the buzzkill on that one. No, he had a huge task to come with what he thought our community could actually get behind and what options we have to look at in the future. And kudos to him and the team that worked with him to really talk about, like, it's easy to dream and then put a sticker on that price tag, but how do we actually pay for it? So.
All right, next up, we're going to turn it over to Commissioner Zach Saresig, who was also on the Citizen Task Force to talk through recommendations.
Yeah, this was, I appreciate the opportunity to speak about this because this was my favorite part. Because, you know, we were going to all these meetings and we have our own opinions and ideas and things we'd like to see, but it was just really cool to get to see this piece of it in terms of laying everything out, that we've got a multiple phase recommendation and here's what those phases look like. And so all those engagement sessions and everything we talked about, and it felt like 5 years worth of meetings, but maybe it was only 2. I don't know. I've heard that maybe it was only 2 years of meetings, but to see it actually come to fruition and see it just in these drawings here. And Todd will speak a little bit more about the specifics, but kind of an overview of it. In terms of the development of recommendations, you know, there was analysis of current building programs and layout, obviously the public input, we talked about that, market analysis, recreation trends and guidance by the PMT and the CTF led to the development of the initial master plan. It's interesting to look at. We've all been in the community center, but when you see it in an overview architectural drawing like this, it makes it feel a little stale, but it's like, you know, we've all been in the building. It's hard to kind of imagine what it's like to walk into this right now when you see it in this depicted in this way. But the plan was optimized through several rounds of refinement, factoring costs of improvements and projected impacts on operational expenses and revenues. There were so many things that were brought forth and considered and filtered through, and lots of great ideas, lots of great input and feedback. The consensus master plan concept primarily expands opportunities through renovation and repurposing of existing space. I think that was a really important piece that a lot of people brought to the table that we heard from. We don't want to necessarily have to build a lot of new things in order to get a new sort of redefined and resculpted community center. And I think that this plan, I think certainly you'll see when we look at it here. But the plan responds to community feedback and touches the entire building. If you look at this particular drawing here, that blue line, we'll call that the line of demarcation. You know, designates the pay-to-play access. So the green side from the free or pre-registered programming access, and on the yellow side of the building there. We can go to the next slide, please. So if you look on the left side, you see of the picture here, you've got the existing floor plan on the entry level, so that main level. And below that is the existing floor plan of the lower level. And on the right-hand side, you see the master plan, floor plan on the entry level, phases 1, 2, 3, and possible future phases. And then you've got the lower level as well there. And let's see if I can pull it up. I can't see that as well from here, sorry. Some of the things that you'll get to look at, and Todd, again, I'll expand on some of this. Obviously, if you can go to the next slide, Marshall, please.
Yeah, it's into more detail.
Yeah, a little bit more detail. I think we can see that a little bit better here. We'd be looking at obviously relocating the check-in desk. If you can kind of see, I don't know if everybody can see where the number 1 is and number 2. So number 1, you've got a new entry canopy as you walk in, and then if you look at 2 right there where the cursor is, and you're essentially looking at a renovated main entry and lounge. And so that's where the new front desk would be right there. We'd essentially move the ice arena lobby, down to the St. Francis area. If you can kind of scroll over there, Marshall.
Yep.
So right now, how when you go, you've got the main entrance that we were just on. And then if you go down a little bit, you've got an entrance to the ice area. We're actually going to look at moving the entire entrance to ice arena way down where St. Francis currently is. We'd also be looking to raise the lower level gym. Expand the indoor playground. There's that big red area there. Currently a much smaller area, but going to expand and enhance the indoor playground opportunity. New restrooms and a sensory room that attach into the playground area. We'd be looking to renovate the theater to a flat floor. Right now, it currently has an incline or decline, depending on which direction you're looking at or sitting in. We convert the Park and Rec office space to Arts and Innovation Lab. This is really cool. I'm excited to see where that can go, and really excited to hear and see what people think and feel about that particular opportunity. The exciting part, there'd be some more storage. Let's be honest, we need storage. And then potentially a gym addition to the building in a future phase. But that would be the entry level. So that main level, this is what the recommendation and the plan that came that is being brought forth for that entry level. And then we go to the next slide. For the lower level, looking at a new multi-purpose recreation area with the raising of the gym. So if now, obviously we've got that massive wide open, space, and we're looking at essentially just raising up. So we create a whole new level, another gym upstairs, and then obviously a recreation and space downstairs. We convert the racquetball courts into expanded group fitness studio. There'd be new fitness purpose locker rooms, or actually we'd renovate the locker room with a larger family area. Excuse me, I skipped over one here, sorry. So essentially now when you'd come into the building with what we're recommending, you would go to the left instead of the right. The stairs would be off to the left, and we'd come down from the stairs. You'd be right down there, and you'd be ready to roll into locker rooms. We'd relocate the member childcare area to the downstairs area, rather than currently it sits upstairs. It's right next to the indoor playground that we currently have. We'd move the water slide. So right now the water slide sort of sits outside where that little party room is and, the lifeguard office. We'd be moving the water slide over to the other side of that area. And the tube would actually move outside of the building. So it would actually shoot outside of the building. And then rather than emptying into the pool, it would actually have its own little trough that it would empty into. We'd move the hot tub. And then the fitness area addition to the building potentially. You can kind of see over there where there would be a fitness area, lower level, gym, upper level potentially. So lots of cool stuff. Really excited to see this thing continue to move forward. And I think a lot of all the information that was given through the engagement sessions, conversations, surveys, you name it. I think that this plan, both the entry level and the lower level, represent, I think, a great manifestation of all of that information in the community engagement. So. I think this is our good friend Todd.
Up, we're going to invite Todd Urbanski to
Yay, Todd.
talk through the different phase options and then give the overall recommendation.
Thank you. And thank everybody here. Zach, you seem to get very excited with the water slide there. Notice that in your so.
Todd, I'm big into water slides. Let's not make a big deal out of it, okay? Into water slides.
The big question, how much is all this gonna cost, right? And before I start to get into that, I just, a little story to tell. Back, it was 96 or 1998, I was on the city council in a different city. We came out to take a look at the Clover Ridge development. The developer that initially built that, was looking at building one in our little city, Hanover. And so our council, planning commission, city administrator all got on a minibus and came out here one night to tour this development. And we ended up at the community center. And we talked about the community center the whole way home versus the development that we at. We were enthralled with it. We knew we couldn't do something like this, and it was brand new at the time. But it's just such an asset that way that sometimes I think because it's in our backyard, we don't think of it as an asset. It's just a community center. But there are other communities out there that look at it as like, wow, I wish we had what they have. So just keep that in the back of your minds. And now, so if we go through with just, we're gonna talk about what we're coming up with as a recommendation to both the park board here and to the city council next week. We made this into 4 different phases, and we're looking at recommending, and we have 100% backing on this from the entire task force to recommend the first 3 phases. And phase 1 is a cost of 23 million. What that's going to do is basically relocate the guest service desk and stairwell, create that welcoming, inviting lobby area, remodel locker rooms, and create a larger family locker room. That also includes the parking improvements. So along with most of the deferred maintenance items, replace the roof, replace exterior egress stair, end-of-life mechanical equipment, plumbing and restrooms, address the hot tub infrastructure and equipment, steel decking in the main area that's corroding, the splash pad, the outdoor plaza deterioration, that does not include replacing the splash pad. That means eliminating the splash pad. Update interior finishes, including paint, carpet, and base, tile and ceilings, update technology, wayfinding and access to rooms, address congestion and circulation in parking lot. And so that's really kind of phase 1 of it. And the cost on that again is 23 million. So what we're getting there, the parking lot will be great. We'll have fresh paint. We'll have some new carpet, but it's going to be the same building basically. When this building was built, I just Wikipedia'd it, by the way. Cheers was still the #1 show on television and Friends hadn't started yet. Okay. So I'm in real estate, and when I go into somebody's house and it hasn't been updated for 30 years, you kind of scratch your head a little bit and go, okay, where do we start here? And so by doing what we're talking about doing, if we were only do phase 1, we're still stuck with a much better building than what we have right now, a building that's usable, a building that's going to sustain itself, but not a building that's necessarily going to draw attention to itself, not a building that people are going to want to go to. And pickleball is kind of the rage right now. There's not much room for pickleball there, but we got room for racquetball, which was also popular in the early 90s, by the way. So parking lot and access improvements. If you look at the screen there, you can see where we kind of have that curve coming in. That's going to be turned into more of a T intersection there for safety perspective. As we learned earlier, we had the school board or the schools as a part of this discussion. They're in tune with this. The blue spots there that you see also increase parking capacity for us. And then you'll see, as Zach was saying, we're gonna move the main hockey entrance down to the far north there. And so we'll have kind of separate hockey parking and kind of separate community center parking with much better flow through each area. A couple roundabouts in there to slow traffic down on the main street that goes through there. And we're increasing our parking stalls by, was it 80 something? I want to say 82. My eyes aren't good enough there.
Seeing what our, we'll end up with 592 stalls.
592, and I think we're
I
like.
think it was gaining like anywhere between right around 80 stalls.
Okay.
Yep.
So quite a bit of parking that we'll be able to add, plus less congestion, plus better lighting, plus better safety coming out of there. So we're pretty excited about that from a parking lot perspective.
And you think like the one side, we just have the one entrance coming in and it's very purposeful about you can go one way through.
Yeah, so instead of having kind of people passing each other in the middle of the parking lot, it'll be one way now. And also that kind of talks a little bit about accessing the building itself. The world's changed since 1990. It's not a very secure building. We have entrances all along the whole buildings. This will allow people to basically come in through one main entrance and or the hockey entrance that way. So next.
Suppliers and vendors come through the back then, or will they still be going through that
That's a
front?
great question.
Yeah, we would still have our sort of receiving area that's right off the main parking lot here, but then we can also route them in the back too. So a couple different options. Yep.
Sometimes they blocked the full.
Yeah.
Yeah, trucks in the way, yeah. It will eliminate some of that as well. Next slide. So phase two, an additional cost of $32,392,206. And which affects both the main level, the entry level, and the lower level. Next slide, I think details that a little bit more. Yeah. So phase two, the facility improvements would be to raise the lower level gym to entry level right now. It's going to create flexibility, expand programming, increase revenue. We can host more tournaments that way. We won't have kids running up and down stairs, adults running up and down stairs all the time. It'll just have better flow to it, which then offers us the ability to completely revamp the fitness area, capturing more space from raising the lower gym, expanding our equipment offerings, providing access to daylight, and increasing revenue. So picture that back wall that kind of overlooks the Minnesota River Valley there being all windows then. The aquatic area expansion and remodel, relocate the water slide, will increase deck space and sight lines, which is important for our lifeguards right now. Improve our water features and potentially increase revenue. Expand the indoor playground. It's pretty small right now. Indoor playgrounds have become a huge thing. We've got the ability to do that, so we're looking at utilizing that, and those things get used for first birthdays, second birthdays, 10th birthdays, family reunions, all sorts of different events. So the revenue opportunities are pretty dramatic for just a small playground like that. Convert the racquetball courts to group exercise room, expand classes, increase space utilization. I think right now we have 5 diehard racquetball players that use them on a regular basis. So we'll have to have a discussion with 5 people on that, but I think overall it's a good plan. Ice arena lobby expansion, Zach touched on that quite a bit. Updated meeting rooms, so our meeting rooms are pretty sterile right now. We'll be able to improve our user experience, which will bring more groups into us that way. The multi-purpose recreation provide specialized fitness, so we'll be able to do group classes, things like that. I know there's a lot of demand for that. we've got Lifetime Fitness right down the road that does really, really well with that stuff. And I'll just use ourselves as an example. My wife and I were members at Lifetime, but we didn't want to spend 20 minutes driving to Lifetime every day and then driving back in the morning. So this would be much easier. Convert current Parks and Recreation offices to Art, Technology, and Innovation Center. Offices would be relocated, provide new programming. Target youth and teen audience, which is, you know, kind of a, we don't have a lot right now for those teen years. And so to get more kids involved at our community center that are, you know, in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grades, would be fantastic. Remodel the theater, make that a flat floor, increases flexibility. We can do a lot more different events in there other than just programs. And then create fitness locker rooms, separate wet and dry programs for the pool and the gym area. Phase 3 was to, this would be an actual addition to the building. So it would be going off over the Minnesota River Valley there, that whole view. It's an addition of a 3rd gymnasium. So where we would raise the lower gym to the main gym, we would actually have 3 courts there, 3 basketball courts, which would be phenomenal. And it gives us more fitness space in the lower level. Cost on this is 10.6 million. We talked about this extensively, and what we're talking about doing is, remember, I mentioned earlier, putting a glass wall from the gym and the exercise area to overlook that Minnesota River Valley. If we wait to do this, it's going to be much more costlier to do it in the future than we do it all at once in one project. So $10 million is a lot of money, but it's going to really kind of change the overall space and use of this building and provide us with something I think we're proud of for, you know, I'm not going to say just the next 30 years, but the next 50 or 100 years possibly. It's really going to open us up to some really cool, unique things. I think I talked about most of that already. And this was kind of phase 4, something that we'll just kind of keep in the plan. We're not talking about doing it right now. Cost is 10.2 million. This was to put a pool addition with an expanded deck area on the outside of the building. And we just, the feedback that we received, you know, everybody loves a pool, but Minnesota is just not super conducive to outdoor pools other than June, July, and August. So for 10.2 million, our ask right now is a lot. So I think this one just kind of gets pulled off and put on the back burner for a while. And really for an outside kind of pool thing, if we do find funds in the future, it's not that hard to change it. Or to add it later. Anything else, Marshall?
You're great.
Perfect.
That
Thank
on the
you.
list, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Todd.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Yeah, the recommended phases 1 through 3 then would have a total price of $70.2 million. And I think it's worth noting that that would actually, we projected ahead to 2027. So this is accounting for some inflation and things of that nature. This would also include all of the architectural design costs, permits, you know, this is kind of everything all in to accomplish those 3 phases, along with, you know, a decent amount of contingency within there too, just knowing it's an estimation. So as far as next steps, you know, the way to kind of think about this is, you know, what the task force did and what the project management team did together along with the community and the consultants was develop this vision and this plan. But now it's really kind of up to, city council along with city staff to figure out how to implement this plan ultimately. And a big piece of that is, how we're going to pay for it. And so I think there's going to be a lot of next steps, and it can be a little daunting to think about, all of those steps to get us to that implementation. But I think to kind of focus in on what are some of the immediate next steps, what I see those being would be looking at surveying our community a little bit more. We are going to have an opportunity to conduct a statistically valid community survey that looks at all the city services, but adding a couple of questions in there, I think would be ideal to just gauge and understand, and I think more than likely validate the value that our residents place on this facility, which can provide, a little bit more confidence in how we're going to approach the different funding options going forward. And then, looking at what I would say is probably that local sales tax option is probably the most immediate funding source that I think could be advantageous to accomplish quite a bit of this plan. As I've alluded to, that's still being discussed at the legislative level. It's been a popular tool for communities the past several years with facilities such as community centers and park projects and things like that. But because I think it became so popular, the legislature put a moratorium on it, their last legislative session. And so there's been a study group kind of evaluating it. And, our understanding is that ultimately the legislative session is considering facilities and projects that would be pre-qualified essentially to go to a local sales tax option without having to get legislative approval, as long as they meet certain criteria, and then they would be able to bring it forward to a referendum. So it would still require a referendum and for that to get passed in order to implement such a local sales tax option. So I think, we're continuing to keep an eye on what the legislative session is going to do with that, in hopes that is going to be a tool that's available for us, and then take some next steps from there. So with that, I think I already hit on that survey and funding. Look at that. I made it kind of fun though. So that concludes the presentation. So turn it over back to the Park and Rec Commission if you have any questions, comments you would like to discuss, and then ultimately seek a motion recommending this go to City Council next week.
I just want to take the opportunity to commend everybody involved. I know everybody's lives are very, very busy, so for you and all of you, especially to take that additional time from the volunteering that you all already do to be a part of this and understand that that community center is a huge part of our community. And as I've heard Matt Paderowski say, it's the heart of our community, and Friday, Saturday night when that place is lit up and it's packed and you can't find a place to park, but then you walk through the doors and you see 6 people that and it just creates a good feeling. To run it all back, just thank you all, really present, and everybody who was involved for their dedication to our city and to seeing it become even greater than it already is. Well, thank you.
It's a pleasure to be a part of it. Still.
Any other questions or discussion? I know we've all kind of been over this a bit,
I am
so.
curious, what's our financial investment up until this point? We've developed the master plan, but what has the city of Chaska spent on, invested into the master plan at this point?
For the services of the consultant, I believe it was, might need to verify this, but I believe it was $158,000 for their services. Yep.
Thank you.
With pizza fund.
What was it?
With pizza fund.
Did, right.
Question, throughout your presentation, they talked about a lot of this was intended to hopefully expand revenue. Has there any estimate as to if we did phase 1 through 3, what kind of additional revenue would we generate?
We haven't taken a huge deep dive into that. That'd probably be another, evaluation of some sort to kind of understand, but I think it's, generally, pretty inherent by adding fitness center space. We're gonna, we know that is amongst our membership at the community center, the most desirable amenity, that people are looking for. So we think we can really gain membership through that. The pool is a big selling point too for membership. So, while we may not be recommending an addition of the pool, really enhancing the space within it, and providing a better experience for the users, I think will be key. Moving that water slide does really free up that existing lap swim pool for more just regular programming. The ice arena, we're not going to see a lot of extra revenue come from what we're recommending there. We're not necessarily adding any more space. But there again, we're increasing that experience, with a new lobby. Eliminating some of the parking lot congestion with that. Further down. But we'll still see some strong, our 2 ice rinks are booked pretty much 95% of the time we're open. And so I think just creating a better experience for our user groups will be a key component. The indoor playground is another area where we see a lot more revenue potential. As Todd mentioned, it lends itself to a lot of different birthday parties, and a lot of even just daily admission type of activity there. So those would be the key things, I think, driving some additional revenue into the building. But then also, I think a lot of the things are just bringing more foot traffic into the facility with the kind of redesigned vision of the theater and the arts and innovation lab, things of that nature. So I think there's potential for it to generate more revenue. But I've shared with council also that this is a type of a facility that, because of the variety of amenities within it, and like Danelle spoke to, there's a lot of what I would say more gathering places that really aren't revenue generating spaces, that there likely will be a gap between our revenue and expenditures. And so I think that's going to be another component for us going forward is, not only looking at how we're going to fund these improvements, but it's also looking at what revenue sources are available to fund the ongoing operating budget.
I'll add to that, the increased gym space, we can do pickleball then. pickleball courts right now, you have to book them a week out and it's like 7 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night. And if you're not on, if you want to play next Sunday, you have to be on at like 7 o'clock in the morning to get next Sunday right now. So there's demand for that kind of stuff. And then when, and I look at the financial picture of this and everything that Chaska has going on right now with the fire station, police station, city hall, public works building, all needed, right? Nobody's arguing that. But most citizens will never go inside the fire station. They'll never go inside the police, hopefully not inside. City hall, we'd love to see more citizens here, but they're not always coming here. Public works, rarely. Community center, that's where we want to see our citizens go. So, yeah, it's just, we've got to figure out a way to fund it.
Feels like I think a good assumption that it's gonna drive more revenue because of all the things that were just shared. It seems near impossible to put an actual number on it.
I think if you knew, though, if you had some sense of it, it would be make it much more compelling to people who are seeing all these other things having to be spent on. And yes.
Because we're substandard to everything else comes right now.
Mhm.
So we can't raise rates on
Right.
it. Can we raise rates when it's new and shiny? Potentially,
Mhm.
but I don't want to guarantee that, we're going to be able to charge more, obviously everything should go up every year. But with new equipment, there should be an expectation that there's going to be a higher rate for this type of space. It's just, what is that break point where
Right.
we want to be able to keep it affordable for our communities?
Mhm. Right.
Carrie, do you have maybe some thoughts based on your experience with Shoreview and?
Yeah, Georgianne, I can say that Shoreview went through a similar expansion and renovation to its community center, particularly expanding its fitness space, which, as Marshall pointed out, is a real revenue driver, but also enhancements to the pool area. And typically, we saw about a 20 to 25% jump in just revenue stream, and indoor playground and things all added to that. But I think that would probably be along the lines of what you could expect here. So it helps with the operating costs, but you also have a little bit more square footage that you have to maintain. So it's all a balancing act. And community centers, particularly over the last 5 to 6 years, have become much more expensive to operate, mainly because of personnel costs going up. You can't hire people for $8 and $10 an hour anymore, paying $15 to $20 an hour, which is very different. And so just operating expenses are much higher than what they are, and it's caused problems, not for all industries, but labor intensive industries like community centers where you have lifeguards and you have people that need to operate desks, and the facility have gotten more expensive as well. So,
Well, that's encouraging.
It wasn't presented as on this presentation right here, but I believe it was included in our packet. There was a breakdown of some other surrounding communities and how they,
Saw that.
those were how they fund their community centers and specifically what the gap is. And that was very eye-opening. Nobody covers their own costs through just revenue stream of the community centers themselves. And so that was, again, very validating, because I think we started out this process thinking, how can we make enough and to cover costs? So like, this is not an achievable goal from what it looks like, unfortunately.
the only other thing I would add, and just with respect to the report, is this is a tremendously comprehensive report and really lays out, I think, a great vision for this facility and, for going into the future. And I think the recommendations of the task force are spot on and really will set this facility up for great success in the future. And from my perspective, I would strongly support that.
Very. Any further discussion, questions at all? Okay, if not.
I just had I had one question, sorry.
Absolutely.
And this is a question I forgot to ask you earlier, Marshall, but is there any any known metric that you're aware of to measure sort of capture rate of community engagement? You know, like if we have a community of X amount of size and we have this level of engagement, is there any way to measure like what kind of capture rate we've had for community engagement here as it relates to this project? Or anything that we can, in comparison maybe to other projects that we've engaged in as a community or.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can compare it to would be our pedestrian and bicycle master plan, which also had a lot of community engagement with over 1,000 comments throughout that process. So, I mean, I guess the way I look at it is just the variety of opportunities we presented people, you know, with both in person, online. I mean, we had 12 to 15 focus group meetings. We met with, you know, our neighboring city managers. So, you know, I feel pretty confident that we provided ample opportunity, and I think there was a good amount of response rate to the survey, and like Danelle said, the attendance at that first open house to give some of that initial wave of feedback, I think was quite a bit of activity compared to a lot of other projects or city type projects. Yeah. How to put an actual data point on that or something, I'm not exactly, I don't quite have a number for
Yeah.
it per se.
Even though I asked the question, I know I don't know that it's possible to quantify that, but I was just curious.
Yeah.
Will we be maintaining the project website?
Yes.
I keep encountering people that have not heard any about this master plan or pursuing improvements, and I just want to make sure that we're gonna update it with next steps. I don't want to, in our current local climate, I don't want to scare anyone if the first page they see has that big old number on it. And
Yeah.
it makes it seem that like, oh, this is something the city's already approved.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're maintaining it with these next steps. So, okay, cool. I can.
Yeah. In fact, we're really like literally in the midst of that because the domain expired. Our consultant group actually put up that site, and so we're working with them to transfer it over, and it'll probably live on the community center webpage as a separate page where we'll bring all that information over and then, you know, look at putting the final report on there, and that'll kind of be the spot to update as we go forward.
Is there a value to having an extra link to like give your feedback after perusing to capture further community feedback if people feel so compelled?
Yeah, doesn't hurt. I mean, the way I look at this is you know, it's still a concept,
Mhm.
you know, and if there's things that are light bulb moments between now and when we actually go to design it, you know, I think it'd be good to hear that. So, yep.
This is where the statistic questionnaire will come in and be huge for us because, I mean, you might not know to go to the community center website and look for the master plan unless you've heard about it. But if we're going to be sending out a questionnaire and asking pointed questions about the community center, that might throw a few hints and people might look from there.
Yep. The other thing that we're working on finalizing, and it was a suggestion that had come from the task force, is essentially like a one pager. How do we capture this entire plan in more of a 1 or a 2 page piece? It's 130 some pages long, and
Mhm.
even the executive summary is quite detailed. So that's kind of my last to do with our consultants. There's just a couple editing things. I was hoping to have it available tonight, but
I have a suggestion.
yep.
Couple words. Yes, the parking's going to be better.
Yeah, that'll be the title of.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. The tagline, yeah.
But on that, we'll have a QR code that'll take people to that website link too, if they want to dive in further. Oh,
Before we moved on, I just wanted to come, oh, go ahead, Georgia.
Sorry, I just had a question. I maybe I missed this in the past when we talked about this, but what in the teen centers are going to be like necessarily targeting teens to come in and be in those spaces? Because I know a lot of me and my friends mainly just like use the gym facilities or such and then leave. So what makes the teen area so special that we like will have teenagers going there?
so a couple of things. I'm hoping this Arts and Innovation Lab could be a fun, exciting new element for teens to come in and hang out and do cool projects and try new things. I also see the theater looking different, you know, so going to more of a flat floor where we can bring in mobile tables and chairs, so it becomes more of like a large coffee shop or like a student union type of thing. And maybe we bring in some sort of rolling cart to offer some beverages and snacks and things of that nature. So I think those couple of additions will provide a little more variety in addition to some of the fitness. Yep.
I just wanted to say that I think as like city staff, you guys did a great job of like engaging the community and getting like a really detailed report down. So I really feel like that was well put together. And so like even with like the huge price tag, I don't feel like anyone in the community could say that city staff didn't do their due diligence on this project. And so I feel like you can put a feather in your cap on that one for sure.
Thank you.
Don't let it go to your head.
Don't
Not much that feather.
maybe get a cap and then
I've seen it a few times in the couple years I've been involved in Park and Rec Commission, but I think that, you know, between yourself and Mary and all the people that do work for the city staff, I think community members, taxpayers, stakeholders would all be really grateful for the way that you guys conduct these processes and the things that you think are important and the values that you represent for everybody. I think that everyone would be really appreciative. I know maybe sometimes commentary, the social commentary maybe doesn't always mirror that, but I think that a lot of people are grateful and see that and feel that. But I think if they could see behind the scenes what all you guys focus on and you know, the things that you consider in every single little decision, I think that they would be proud of you guys and grateful. So nice job.
Any further discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion to recommend city council approval of Chaska Community Center Master Plan Report and the acceptance of the city citizen task force recommendation.
A motion.
Motion, Saresic. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Passes. Very good.
Outstanding.
Outstanding. Yeah, it's been a process. It's nice to see these things take the steps. Okay, that moves us on to item number 8, discussion items. And 8A, park and trail updates.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Pull it back up. I was able to get pictures for you all this time. Exciting than just hearing me babble. All right, so it is that time of year where there's a lot happening within the parks and trail system. So quite a few updates to go through here. So starting off with quite a few updates occurring at Lions Park. So here is the concept plan for a future addition of 5 more pickleball courts, adjacent to the existing 6 courts, that were, part of a past tennis court conversion there. So I've shared this out with you all. Brian Jung, our park maintenance, our public works director, went on site, a couple of weeks ago to intercept some of the pickleball players to show them this concept plan, and gather feedback. We've emailed this plan out to our, email distribution list of pickleball players that, Zach Johnson, our athletic supervisor, communicates with. And then we've also put it out on our city's website and, put it in a Park and Rec update newsletter, that goes out to a subscription list as well, for people to take a look at and give feedback. I would say overall, we're receiving a lot of positive feedback. As you know, pickleball is a very popular sport at this current site. Oftentimes, especially most mornings during the week, several people are waiting just to play. So I think the added courts along with I think the added gathering areas in the middle is what people are really excited about, with some shade and things of that nature. So a lot of this is being also performed in-house. So our Public Works Department is contracting and performing a lot of the work on this to help save costs. So I think the budget for this expansion is right around $175,000 to complete this project. It would be adding lights to it throughout around the new courts, along with upgrading the existing lights at the existing courts. And then I think fencing is another big one with this. The current plan is calling for 4-foot fence around the perimeter. I think the thought there was maybe it's just more inviting and visual to come into, but some of the feedback we're getting is people prefer more 6 to 8 foot fencing. Just less opportunity for the ball to actually go outside of the entire courts and having to fetch it. I'd be looking at that. So we are still kind of in the midst of gathering and understanding the feedback. We have not had an opportunity to meet on that. We'd established a deadline of last Sunday. So that'll be kind of our next step, coming back together and just accounting for the feedback, and making some decisions to move this project forward. But the intent would be to get started on this sometime this summer, just to get the contractor on schedule, and especially with more of that blacktop surfacing. You want to do that during the heat of the summer, before it gets cold in the fall. So that is, any questions on the pickleball court?
It's a serious conundrum with the fence situation there.
Yeah,
Like having it tall enough so you don't hit balls over, but having it short enough so you can go over it to get the ball that you just hit over it.
well, there'll be several gates you can go out to, yeah.
I would
Just
say
making
if you do the exterior fencing could be higher, but the interior fencing,
We'll keep that at the 4 foot.
and even the fencing maybe were between the gathering area and the courts themselves should also be lower, because then people can see when courts are available and things like that. I think that makes it a little bit easier.
Okay. Good.
Is there gonna be programming that here, or is it just all open play?
Yeah, so this will provide us opportunity to expand on programming, along with, even potentially
Tournaments.
more capable of a tournament site and things like that. So
How will it be funded?
So this is being funded through the annual capital asset management program, and dollars that come into our Public Works Department as part of a tax. It's one of the tax levy programs that goes towards park enhancements. Yep. I know another point of feedback I forgot to mention was whether or not wind screens would be added to the fencing. The nice thing with this site is we don't think we're gonna necessarily need wind screening. It's really kind of the ideal site in the fact that it's tucked in a little bit. It's got trees on both sides. But we'll consider installing fencing that can potentially handle wind screening if we wanted to add that in the future, if we felt like it was necessary.
What's the color? Like, this might sound like a dumb question, but what is the color and like how hard or soft is the pavement gonna be? Because I know like pickleball players say like shock absorption and stuff like that affects their gameplay since their ball is hollow. So yeah, just question on like how like the material, what the material is and what color it's gonna be and stuff like that.
She's wondering about the shock absorption of the courts.
Courts themselves are asphalt and they're just, it's a painted color coating on top of the court. So it would be like any municipal tennis courts and things like that. Sometimes some communities play in concrete, but asphalt is really the preferred surface in most places. So,
Yeah.
and actually it's a decent surface from a shock absorption standpoint.
And I think maybe where some of that question comes into play is with some indoor facilities, or you know, having different surfaces, whether it's a hard floor basketball court versus some other different sports surfaces. But yeah, this will be more of an asphalt surface.
Get on like a gym floor, so
Hmm.
I've seen the bad side of it.
So yeah, so I'll keep you updated and informed just as this project comes along. And
Yeah, where did the original request for the idea for this project arise?
I think it bubbled up from the pickleball players that are there playing often, and the fact that a lot of them do need to wait to actually get on the courts. And so it was discussed as part of the, I guess what I would say, package of park enhancements that got brought forward to our city council. And so the city council weighed in on that and recommended staff to build this addition of pickleball courts at this site.
And all week long, these courts are being used. It's not just Saturday at 8 to 11. So no one wants to wait. So let's build some more courts just so I don't have to wait. Like all week long, these are being used.
I mean, a good portion of the week they are used. Yeah. I mean, I think you probably compare it to any park amenity throughout our system, and it's probably one of the most used amenities out there. You can go early in the morning, and that's where you'll see a lot of people playing. But even the other day, when I grabbed these pictures here on the right, 3 of the 6 courts were being used at 1 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. Evening time, you start seeing, more people coming after work, and then weekends with, families. So it's pretty amazing how this sport has taken off. I had even heard, talking to my daughter who just came back from college. She was talking with one of her other friends who just came back from college, and her friend went to Texas Tech University, and she had signed up for intramural pickleball. They had 1,200 students signed up for intramural pickleball at the university. It's just, it's unreal. And the median age for pickleball play continues to go down just as more young people are playing this sport.
If the Parks and Rec had their choice with this, and I understand it comes from a different fund, and, but if Parks and Rec had it their way, would this be the first thing that you guys would do? Just out of curiosity, I understand it's a different fund and it's completely separate from what you guys do, but would this be it with that $175,000?
Yeah, I mean, I think I support the direction in this, just given the popularity of this sport.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's certainly other things that need to get addressed in our park system, and new things we're gonna potentially be looking at the future community park, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, but I think this site really lends itself for it. The community a lot of the community already goes here. There's kind of that muscle memory coming to Lions Park.
Oh, yeah, and I like I like what you're creating down in Lions Park. I absolutely do. I think that's great. I mean, with the softball already and maybe a little bit of the beer drinking that goes on down there, you know what I mean? It's a great, not a great time, it's just another family place to be. And you feel that when you're in that park. So, I mean, I feel that these things are, they're great additions to another real outdoor hub for the city. So I do think it's great. I just, I feel I'm inclined to ask these questions just to make sure, you know what I mean? I don't want to feel like you guys, even if I don't have a say in it, are being overstepped by a project that, is a necessity that's being overstepped for a pickleball court that has already been addressed in the past. I mean, when was the first one installed? Was that inside the last 5
Well,
or
those
10 years?
were,
It was tennis courts.
four tennis courts, yeah, and it
Yep.
was really underutilized for tennis. We'd had portable pickleball in there, and it was kind of a combination
Yep.
of tennis and pickleball.
Yeah.
And then we went to more of that dedicated pickleball. I think that was about 3 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
So just seeing that, you know what I mean, with pickleball being addressed, we are cycling right back to it fairly quickly. And again, understanding that it is a growing sport, people love it, and that's awesome. We want things in the community that people want to do. And I think with that original tennis court, whoever came up with that bright idea, that was brilliant. I mean, it totally brought life back into that corner of the park, and I think that's great. But I do question the addition.
Just curious with the sand volleyball court there, was that pretty underutilized?
Yeah, and
Okay.
that was sort of another reason why this is a really ideal spot to add the pickleball is the sand volleyball. This really did not get used, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
I know in some other communities, sand volleyball is huge.
yeah, because that's how it is in Eden Prairie, that yeah, we can't get rid of the courts because they're so utilized. So it's just interesting, the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and just even hearing from, again, Zach Johnson, who's out at the park, multiple evenings a week, just checking in on programming, and it's like hardly sees anybody playing in the volleyball courts.
Is that because of the condition that they're in?
I don't think they were in that bad a condition.
Oh.
I don't know if this is because there's two of them or if it's just the location of the park altogether. I'm not sure, but I think if that were to bubble up, again, maybe that's something that we look at in the Southwest Community Park. If
Cool.
maybe it needs to be a bigger complex where there's 4, 5, or 6 sand volleyball, and it fosters a larger group to come together.
Sure.
Because I know that Cuzzies has volleyball, and they do leagues, and it seems quite popular. But
They also serve beer
Yeah.
and burgers and tater tots.
Yeah, beverage.
Other things within close proximity that helps out.
Is,
know,
but won't be ready by River City Days by chance, will they? Cause that's being
Oh, yeah,
moved to Lions Park again this year, right?
yeah. Yeah, these probably won't be ready by then. So,
Signage up out there.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
no, but you'll see that, in a couple more Lions Park updates, I think big picture, if you really reel it back here, I guess what I feel pretty good about is a little bit of this reinvestment into Lions Park. I think when I came to the city, it's one of our larger community parks. It's truly central to the city that was a little aged, so we've added the dog park components, we helped out, kind of helped reshape that pump track over there. We got the pickleball courts going and things of that nature. So I think it's kind of nice to see that, and then especially as we hopefully then transition towards the future community park. But so next up, bring forward the playground. So we are looking at a playground replacement at Lions Park as well, and we had the opportunity to look at a couple different renderings at a past work session. I think, what staff gleaned from that was really we couldn't go wrong with either of them. It was kind of a 50-50. And so staff, talked about it a little bit more, and I think we felt like moving forward with this playground design, which is through landscape structures, just felt like a nice fit for Lions Park. Kind of combines a little bit of that traditional, but brings in some new fun elements. I'll just scroll through here. It's got some nice shade options that comes with it as well. You can see here, it's kind of neat. There's different routes kids can take and lots of different levels of climbing and crawling to go throughout the structure. See the 2 to 5 area with the swing bays along with some other climbing and crawling components. And I think the thing to point out too here, that's not grass, that's actually turf. So we're looking at incorporating turf in combination with a little bit of mulch within the containers at Lions Park. And so building upon some of that goal of, being more accessible and available to kids of all abilities, I think will be a great step for this park. And we are doing a lot more adaptive programming at Lions Park. Erin and her recreation team with adaptive kickball and things of that nature. So it'd be fun for them to be able to pop over to this playground after those types of programs. There's just another view of the rendering there. So this is all ordered up. It's pretty amazing now how far in advance you got to order playground equipment. So this is all ordered, and it's looking to, I think, scheduled to be installed that last week of August timeframe. And again, pending on just weather and the contractor's schedule, but sometime late summer, early fall, that'll get installed. About a month ago, there was a tree planting event that occurred at Lions Park. So this was in conjunction with the Chaska Lions Club and the Chaska Rotary, along with volunteers that came out to assist with our Public Works Department. And they planted 138 trees, new trees within Lions Park.
I went and
So-
inspected every single one after.
Nice, that's good. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Brian mentioned that you were part of that event, which I was happy to hear. And yeah, got to be a part of.
I'm sure he was annoyed. Okay. But no, it was great. There was so many people there. It was incredible to see like the turnout. It was cool.
Yeah, and just to continue to combat the emerald ash borer and get some new trees established will be helpful. And then there is one sad thing at Lions Park, and that was the fact that the shelter building closest to the dog park had some fire damage to it. So it's currently not usable. So we've got some portable porta potties there for the time being. In talking with Brian today, it sounds like they're gonna get in and renovate the bathrooms and get them back up and running with the goal of getting that done by July 4th. So unfortunately, that stuff happens in the park system. See here, on Meadow Park. So this is the park adjacent to the former. Share a picture here. It's quite different seeing that space with the building down now. But the park is kind of off there, into the right, and you can sort of see now why that park just really is not usable throughout this construction project. So that is that. Continue to get some inquiries from residents who live over in that area. Just curious about, the timing of this, the planning process for this park, of which, I continue to articulate, I think sometime late summer, early fall seems to be about the opportune time to kick off a planning process. My hope by then is that the site will take shape a little bit more. Ideally, maybe the frame of the building is up and it can give us just a little bit of, I don't know, I'm sort of a space person where I need to be out there and visualize it and look at it, versus just looking at flat paper. So I think late summer, early fall will be the time that we kick that off. And I think just, given the I guess what I would say maybe compromise that took place here at this particular site. I've suggested and invited a couple of residents to be a part of this planning process, which is a little different than what we've done before. So if that's something that they're interested in, we'd, welcome to meet with staff and the consultants a little bit more on the front end, help shape the new park. Then I took a drive over to the Autumn Woods development. If you remember, this was the former Wagner Farm site. And if you haven't been over there, this picture really isn't showing it, but that development has really taken off.
Oh,
So this is really probably a park planning process we need to start sooner than later. So we're starting to put a little bit of thought into getting that up and running, but I just thought I'd share a couple pictures. You're seeing this sidewalk here, which is what will ultimately lead into the park space. And you can see the house under construction that would be adjacent to the park. Then I got another picture that just kind of shows the space looking into it. So that'll be fun. I think there's a lot of, neat opportunity there, working within and around the existing trees within that site.
Actually, I feel like a field trip might be appropriate here.
Yeah, yeah.
yep, fire up the bus, Marshall.
Yep.
There might be another opportunity there to get some of the, not necessarily, maybe some of the Autumn Wood residents, but particularly the surrounding neighborhood residents. I mean, this was a hard change for their existing neighborhood. And so not that we need to necessarily make it the norm with every park planning process, but it feels like an olive branch that we can offer to different neighborhoods to say, hey, be a part of this. Don't just attend and watch us debate it, but that also could be a good one, because I'm sure those wounds are still pretty raw for some neighbors as the development continues and continues.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree. And I think one of the, I guess, things to figure out with this park site is gonna be how the existing residents will access it, from the other side of the street.
Mhm.
We're likely gonna have to create a breakthrough in the woods somewhere, so that they have ease of access kind of from their side, and then there'd be more of that main entrance coming from the new development side. So, yep.
Residents
Uh,
could name it.
What's that?
Residents could name it. Mhm.
I just put Autumn Woods Development.
Yep.
So,
It's a working title.
Working title.
the Miracle League field, along with, I'll just skip to the next slide, the Universal Playground, which we have, some concepts developed. We continue to embark on fundraising efforts. Partnering with the Chaska Rotary, we are gonna do another Chaska Cares Music Fest later on this year. We plan to move that up a little bit. Last year it was early October. We're gonna move it up to, it's gonna be a Friday, September 20th. But looking at locating it at Fireman's Park rather than Athletic Park. Even though Athletic Park was an awesome venue and it kind of fits within the whole baseball theme with trying to fundraise for the Miracle League field. Just after going through it last year, it was pretty risky. And I think going forward, trying to minimize risk in terms of weather. And if that site were to get, any decent amount of rain leading up to it, and the damage it could do to that baseball turf would be pretty tough to put on and especially, with the goal of trying to really increase the attendance for that type of an event. So we came back to Fireman's Park. I think, that park is really just kind of built for those types of events. And there's already a lot of the infrastructure there that can help reduce some of our costs with putting on the event too, and providing more towards the fundraising event.
How do you enforce admission at Fireman's Park?
So that is one of the trade-offs. So we are looking at, potentially looking at a wristband option, and I know that would really be targeting those that are getting ID'd to drink, but I think that's sort of the bulk of the crowd coming to that event. So maybe doing a nominal wristband fee just at the point of getting ID'd. In considering it to be more of a low cost event, trying to drive more people there. And then doing maybe some fundraising during the event. So we're looking at the potential of utilizing the event center, and Rotary may do some sort of a silent auction type thing within there. But driving up more of just the beverage and food sales and things of it, try to establish the event a little bit more. And then if we ever felt like we wanted to create a more ticketed event in the future, we could put up temporary fencing around there and then just factor that in as part of the cost of the event.
Are you considering changing the time to a little bit earlier and perhaps not being adult only? I know for us, childcare was a real consideration because that's almost the cost of the ticket. And if there were bands playing earlier, there's maybe a likelihood that families might go. Again, not that it's a family friendly bazillionaires activity, but I know that was for my neighborhood at least, a bit of a barrier.
Yeah. Good question. You know, this coming year, because it's a Friday, it is going to be more of an evening event. And we had to go with a Friday just based on the availability of the event center and not interfering with scheduled weddings. So we are looking at holding a couple of dates next year for Saturday where that could allow us to open that up a little bit more and consider a longer program throughout the day. I would say that, you know, while the city's partnering on the event, it is a little bit more of a Rotary event. You know, and I think their desire, from what I'm understanding in the meetings with them, is they really like this to be a little bit more of they want it to be more of a music festival with multiple bands, rather than just a concert with only one or two. So I think they like that idea of a longer day. But I think they do also see this geared a little bit more towards an adult type of an event, just knowing that I think Parks and Recreation, we already program a lot of family type events. I think they're trying to just create something that's maybe a little bit more different and unique than what we're already offering. Not to say that families and kids couldn't come, but maybe not building it around that.
That's fair.
So,
Fair.
also want to acknowledge, recognize, and appreciate the local Lions Club. They have allocated $300,000, dedicated $300,000 to go towards the Future Miracle League project with the city. So
Easy.
huge thanks to them.
Pull tabs.
Yep. So I mean, with that combined with some other previous fundraising efforts, I think we're at about $750,000. So it's starting to create a little bit more momentum. And then we also did submit an application into the congressional direct spending bill to see if we couldn't get some support from that as well. Apparently, the city of Apple Valley was successful getting some funding a couple of years ago. So yeah. And then I guess overall, just mention that you know, these two amenities are going to be a part of the future Southwest Community Park. And in it, so as we talked about Meadow Park and Autumn, you know, the future Autumn Woods Development Park, this is another one we got to get going on. And so starting to meet a little bit more intentionally with other department staff and getting some things in order to start to develop a planning process. Because we'll ultimately want to develop a master plan for this park to understand, you know, where should these amenities go within the park, and then what are the other things that the community wants, and how do those relate to these amenities? Will be important for us to start creating a vision around. So that'll be probably you know, I think the significance of that park will probably be looking at another type of citizen task force to help go through that process. I'm getting calls from future home buyers in the developments adjacent to there, wondering what's going in there. So yeah, so it's that sense of urgency is starting to
Right near it now.
kind of creep up on us. Just wanted to make you aware of that. If you haven't noticed, we got some AEDs in some of our parks now. Particularly, so this would include Lions Park, Community Park, Athletic Park, Pioneer Park, and Sunset Park. So pretty much where all of our more athletic fields are. And so big thanks here goes to the Baseball Association. They were some of the individuals that really wanted to see these installed, and so they actually provided the funding necessary for the AEDs, and then it was our fire department that funded the boxes for them to go into, and then our public works department installed them all. So just a great collaboration there amongst those groups. And then it'll be our fire department that will monitor and maintain them going forward, just to check on them. Couple of paving projects that are going to be occurring. So this is new to me. I didn't realize kind of the traditional name of this particular trail is the Kenneck Creek Trail. But this would be a trail that essentially goes from the old Victoria Road, which is just south of Community Park. And then it extends east and terminates over at Bavaria Road. So it comes under 212, goes by kind of the north side of Sunset Park, and then over to Bavaria Road. So this trail exists. It's a crushed gravel trail, but it sits in some lowland areas where it at times can be just unnavigatable because it's so mushy and muddy. This was identified as one of our top 10 trail projects within our parks and our pedestrian and bicycle master plan. So great to see this project coming to fruition to get it paved. So Public Works have been out preparing it, and I think their goal is to actually pave it here potentially within the next week or two. So see that occurring.
That about 2 miles worth of trail or?
Not quite. I think it's about 1.5 miles. Yep. And then looking here at the Savannah Oaks Park, the phase 2 up in that northern section through the woods. As you can see, the picture I took, I think my eyes were more impressed with the trees, so not seeing the trail as much there, but isn't it pretty cool to see the experience that people have within that neighborhood? But so again, that trail got prepared last fall with the crushed gravel, and so I think the plan for Public Works is to come in sometime shortly after Memorial Day to pave that section of trail to wrap up that whole park project. So that's exciting.
And is the trail paving going in?
What's that?
When's the trail paving going in? I'm sorry.
Sometime after Memorial Day.
Oh, cool.
Say Labor Day.
No, you said Memorial.
Said Memorial, okay.
Yeah.
I'm bringing up, I conned Brent into bringing a whole bunch of adjacent city staff to look at this project.
Okay.
Of neighboring cities. So that'll be cool to have the trail paved.
Yeah, great.
Go look
It's
at it.
beautiful. Yeah. You gonna talk about some of the restoration that occurred? Cool.
Gonna look at the restoration and talk
The
about
goat's
it.
gonna be out there?
No,
No,
They're done.
they did their job.
they did their job. They're all done
Not coming
now.
back ever again?
Well,
They
maybe
had to goat
Potentially.
tone.
later.
We were talking about that the other day, though. Like, that's a pretty good gig for the goat owners, because it's like
Yeah,
we're providing food for them and paying them.
I know, exactly.
So
It's a win.
It's a win. All right, so I think that, and then kind of another just trail update is the downtown underpass.
Yes.
So kind of fun to grab this picture, and work continues on that. And I think the aim is for this to be completed late June, middle of July-ish timeframe, in conjunction with the paseos that are getting worked on, and you're going to start seeing some of the installation of some of the wayfinding signage and just some of those added amenities that kind of beautify this whole downtown 41 project. The trail extension going along Chaska Boulevard, going east, that's a completely separate project from this downtown underpass, which was part of the 41 project. That is, behind a little bit, but I think the goal is for the construction to begin on that late summer, early fall. It may not, I don't know if it'll completely get completed this year or not, but something for us to look forward to in the future. So we're starting to talk as staff, and I think there's going to be probably several other groups we want to pull in to do some sort of ribbon cutting or, the first pass through, kind of ceremonial pass on this trail, which would be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's really gonna provide a lot of opportunity to bring people into the downtown area and create a safe crossing ultimately.
I've been really encouraged by how many people are using the new crosswalks too, though. Now that there's like a spot in the middle that you could wait if someone decided not to stop for you. So many people have been using the crosswalks. It's been awesome.
And I'm just generally seeing more people biking too, up the hill.
Yikes.
Flipped on the back of their bike, it's.
Yeah.
One other thing I'll mention here, somewhat related, is Bob Lincoln, who is kind of one of our local bike advocates and works for the library, and was on the steering committee for the pedestrian and bicycle master plan. He and Jeff have been putting on an educational 3-part series class, I guess you would say, through the library. And so they invited me to speak at it 2 weeks ago. Not a whole lot of people registered for it, but it was a good conversation and a way to, talk about the master plan and some more projects that are up and coming. But they're going to be having their final class tomorrow night, in which they intend to do a bike safety check, and then they're going to go out on a group ride. But through that opportunity that I had with them last week, we're talking about the consideration of like a weekly Wednesday night group ride that could occur from the library, or maybe once this underpass gets built, it's somewhere near there. But stay tuned for more. We may have just sort of a casual bike club that would meet out of the library on Wednesday nights and just go on a variety of tours throughout Chaska. All right, so that is it for the parks and trails updates. Now we can move on to recreation updates.
Yes, 8B recreation updates.
All right, so last week we had the bike to school day events. Great collaboration with our park and recreation staff. A lot of credit goes to Erin and her coordination with the Clover Ridge School leadership, along with our police department, and then this year Tim Vosberg, who was the key player in getting our Hawks Ridge mountain bike trails built, participated as well. So I think this is the 3rd or 4th year we've done it at Clover Ridge, and you can just see by the amount of bikes how well received that event is. And
An armada of bikes there.
Even Principal Nate Slindy was just pretty impressed at the impact that had on reducing the number of cars coming through, not as part of the congestion for drop off. So this is one of those events that really falls under the encouragement category within our pedestrian and bike master plan to really get people to try it, and then from there, the hope is, why not do it more? And I know staff, heard several kids say that, like, Mom, Dad, can we do this every day? This is awesome. So planning these types of things and, getting people to try it is really beneficial. New this year too, though, La Academia also participated. And while a lot of their students get bused, just because they're coming from further away and a little bit tougher just based on the location, rather than bike to school, it was a bike at school event. So people that could bring their bikes did, but then we also partnered with community education, who has a fleet of bikes, along with there is a teacher there at La Academia that got a fleet of bikes for little kids.
Megan Williams.
Megan, yeah,
She's a Chaska resident. She and her husband are both teachers here. They live here. Kids go to school here, and she's the one who was behind all of
a
that.
champion,
Mhm.
the learn to bike cause there. But yeah, phenomenal turnout. It was just so fun to see all the kids cruising around on the track there and getting some fresh air and having fun before they went back to school. So big thank you to the variety of staff and other departments along with the schools for promoting biking and being active. So here we've got a picture, as I've mentioned in the past, we're working with Clover Ridge to develop a safe routes to school plan. This is in conjunction with a grant we received through MnDOT and the Alta Planning Group that they subcontract planning out to. But as a part of this safe routes to school plan, there was funding to be able to do a demonstration project. And so through some of the initial feedback that was done, and just through observation, it was identified that that roundabout that exists right there at the Clover Ridge Elementary School is really kind of a location that creates some difficulty for families and kids to be able to cross and get over to school. And so what this demonstration project is to essentially kind of narrow the width of the roundabout and try to calm traffic down. And it was done in a way that fire trucks and, large vehicles can still navigate the roundabout. But it was a fun project. I was able to participate. We actually just did this yesterday. So there was staff from Public Works, our street department, Ashley in planning, Nate in community development, along with getting some assistance from the students during one of their breaks to create this demonstration project. So if you go out there today, you would see the kind of these red areas on all four corners of the roundabout. And then there's reflective tape on the edges along with bollards and signage. And I had the opportunity to drive around it later in the day yesterday after it was completed. And I have to say, as a driver, it was noticeable. Like I felt like something's up there where I need to slow down. And so I'll be curious just what the feedback is.
Yeah.
As it's up longer. Oh,
Yeah, it's nice. My son bikes to school every day and I like it.
yeah, so there's actually some signage up that informs people that it is a demonstration project. And I think there's a QR code to go to to take a survey and provide feedback. And then my understanding is the principal will probably be getting a communication out to parents, letting them know about it, and also, again, to gather as much feedback as possible. And then I think the big question will be what to do from there, is the feedback such that the recommendation here would be to create more of a permanent solution? And then if so, what would that cost be and how would we fund that into the future? And then within that time frame, whether or not you maintain this demonstration. So more to come on that. Let's see here, bicycle friendly community, says as part of the pedestrian and bicycle master plan, one of the recommendations and goals was to submit an application to become a designated bicycle friendly community, which is something that's done through the League of American Bicyclists, which is a agency located out of Colorado. One of the oldest agencies around, actually. It's kind of an interesting website to look up and read about and learn about the history. But you go back, back to the early days with dirt roads and, horse and buggies and people, once the bike was invented, this group was ultimately the advocacy group that led to our modern day highway system, and creating road surfacing that was ideal for people to be able to bike. So they do all sorts of things, but one of the things they've done is they've developed, I guess what I would say, sort of benchmarking minimum criteria to be considered a bicycle friendly community. And there's different levels that you can achieve from bronze, silver, gold on up to platinum. And as you can see here, since 2003, there's been over 870 applications they've received, and about 480 are currently certified. So it is a pretty robust application. Just because you apply doesn't mean you're going to get the designation. There's only a little over a 50% success rate there. And then you can see just some of the statistics pertaining to Minnesota. So we're the fifth ranked bicycle friendly state across the United States. There's currently 34 bicycle friendly communities that have the designation in Minnesota, 105 bicycle friendly businesses, and then 7 bicycle friendly universities. So we're working on that application. We had an initial goal to submit it by June. That they used to offer 2 different times a year where you could submit your application. They've moved that now to just 1 time a year, which is in June. And we've come to the realization it's a little more robust than I think what we even thought. It's over 100-page application, and is quite detailed. And so we're just going to put a pause and really aim for next year, June, because if you do submit and you don't get the designation, you got to wait 2 to 3 more years before you can reapply. And so I feel like it's worth taking this a little bit of extra time, making sure we're able to, fill out the application as complete as possible. And then the other benefit we'll have is I think the more that Mary and Ashley in our planning department, who've been kind of leading up more of the application content process, is they're starting to see some low-hanging fruit things that we could potentially be doing between now and that next year that would also just strengthen our application too. So just wanted to share that because I think I've made mention of this and the application process and the goal of trying to get that submitted this year. But I think we've come to the realization that it's best to wait another year. Another thing to share that is also aligned with our bicycle, pedestrian and bicycle master plan is the Resilient Communities projects in coordination with the University of Minnesota. So this is an opportunity where cities can submit an application with project ideas for students that are typically more junior, seniors, or at a graduate level to work along with their professors to come up with, to basically deliver on projects and then also gain some experience. And so we as the city of Chaska have submitted a package of project ideas for their consideration. And a couple of them that relate to the pedestrian and bicycle plan is one of them would be for the students to develop an evaluation plan. So that's one of the components of our ped bike plan and one of the recommendations that came out of it. And so I think it'd be great to have students come with an outside perspective and create sort of a, I guess, a baseline proposal of how would we go about evaluating our current state of biking and walking, and then how do we measure that going into the future, along with measuring, new things that we implement over time. So what does that look like? How would we do it? How much would it cost? What type of technologies are out there? How often we do it? Things of that nature. And then the second other project idea was to build on the trail wayfinding recommendation within the plan. So we've got a couple of things we've done in the past, but maybe building on that and taking it to the next level to help us define what would a system-wide trail wayfinding plan look like. And again, getting some students with an outside perspective to work on that and gain some experience. These projects do cost a little bit of money. I think they're about $5,000 or $6,000 per project if they were to select our project ideas. The evaluation plan idea, I was able to work with Pat Stieg at the county, and we would be able to utilize some of the SHIP grant to cover the full amount for that project. So that's a nice partnership there. And then just another thing to point out is whatever the students come up with, we're not required to implement. So it's just, ideally we will, and they're going to come up with great ideas, and it's going to be a great experience and an opportunity to mentor them. But obviously they're students with limited experience and they're doing it, within one semester. So, we'll just kind of see what we come up with.
Great.
A few weeks ago, we hosted the USA Curling 5U National Championships at the Curling and Event Center. Turned out to be an awesome event. We had teams represented from all across the country. Mayor Mark Windschettle provided a very nice welcome to everybody as part of the grand ceremony, kicking everything off. And then you can see there on the left a picture of City Administrator Matt Podorowski, our Curling and Event Center Manager Jeff Isaacson, and then that's Brooke and Allie Gerdeau, who they are local curlers. Chaska is their home club, who they recently won the U21 National Championships over in Eau Claire a couple of years ago, or a couple months ago. So Allie threw out the first ceremonial stone, and the others were on the lane assisting with the sweeping. So, and And then on the right there, those were that was the team that won the event. So that's Team Mellon, and they're actually out of Duluth. So kind of cool that Minnesota represented the winning team. So great to see just a national caliber event right here in our hometown, in our facility. The Loop at Chaska is now open. They had their grand opening back on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. So here's just a picture showing the large putting green they call the Minaleas. Thus far, I haven't had an opportunity to play it yet, but thus far, the feedback I've gotten from those that have gone out there have really enjoyed it. And think this is just another awesome facility here in Chaska that really aligns well with city council's goals for being a welcoming and inclusive community. It's a unique facility that you just don't find anywhere. I think there might only be one or two others that even exist in the country. So I think it'll be really neat to see how this takes off going into the future, and seeing this facility hopefully just foster more people to want to try and learn the sport.
Question. What was the process to determine that the Goodman Group got naming rights on the clubhouse?
Yeah, so I'm still kind of figuring that out a little bit. So one thing I do know is that this course, back when the city council decided to essentially keep it sustainable, because it was several years ago, starting again another facility showing its age. I think we were seeing the number of rounds being played there really diminish. And there was the need to ultimately replace the entire irrigation system and all that. So there was sort of this point where the city needed to make a decision whether or not they were going to reinvest back into that. My understanding is this site really isn't conducive for development because it's a lot of kind of the swampy area. So I think the thought was to try to maintain it as a golf course. But to sort of replace it as is didn't necessarily seem to be the right idea either, since it wasn't getting a lot of play. So they were able to form a partnership with Barrier Free Golf. And I believe it was Barrier Free Golf that ultimately took the lead on securing sponsorship dollars from a variety of different organizations and businesses to cover the cost of essentially kind of regrading and redesigning everything above and beyond the city's cost for the replacement of the irrigation. So that's why I think, and again, I haven't played the course yet, but I think every hole has a different sponsor name on it. Even this sign here you can see has a recognition on it. And so to what degree the Goodman Group contributed, I'm assuming they contributed quite a bit more above and beyond those other entities to get recognized on the clubhouse.
That answers my question. Barrier Free Golf facilitated those sorts of sponsorships, then that makes sense.
Last week, we hosted an understanding autism event at the theater within the community center. A lot of credit goes to Aaron Link, our recreation program manager, along with other Park and Rec staff who contribute their time on a DEI committee that we've developed a while back. And so one of their ideas was to create just a community conversation and invite people in to learn a little bit about autism. And so they coordinated with the Autism Society of Minnesota, otherwise known as Awesome, like that's how they refer to themselves. But I attended, and there was, I believe, easily over 60 people that came. And so I think it was great to see that level of turnout. It was a beautiful night, so you never really know what the turnout's going to be, especially when it's free and whatnot. But great to see the turnout and just people wanting to learn more and figure out, how we can make our environment better for people that live with autism in one way or another.
Was there, just curious, a recording of this presentation that could possibly get uploaded to the community center webpage for people who are curious but not able to attend?
We did not get a recording of it. No. We could have, but they charged more money to do that. And so we just weren't sure if that was the right way to go. I think based on the turnout we got, maybe that is something we should consider for future, or maybe we could create a little library of these types of events. But my thought was if it was that well received, we could certainly invite them back and offer it again. They put on a variety of different talks around autism. In fact, one of our police officers attended the event, and he's really been one of our primary police officers to work with the autism community and getting to create some more understanding and trust and building up that relationship. And so I know he spoke with the presenter to come in and do a whole separate training just with the Chaska Police Department, which was cool. And then last Friday, we had a Paint the Ice event. So this week, we took out the ice on rink 1 to perform just annual maintenance. And so as a part of that, our ice rink supervisor created this fun event for the community to come in and paint the ice before we took it out. And so I think there was over 80 people that showed up, and you can see all that cool artwork out there out on the ice. So
Well,
fun thing. And then we're offering some other things later this week. I think we're doing a roller skating open skate event just on the concrete a couple times. And then weather dependent, on Saturday, we may do like a bounce house bonanza. So we're going to kind of treat that a little bit more like a pop-up event, because if the weather is nice, I don't know if we'd see a great turnout for that, and there would be a cost to bring in multiple bounce houses. But if it were to rain or whatnot, that was one of our ideas. So I haven't had a chance to look at the weather, but. And then just to wrap it up here, some more things, kind of looking ahead. The Chaska Outdoor Recreation Experience, otherwise known as CORE. This is a new program we're going to be starting that's going to be primarily held over at Lions Park starting in June. And that is being supported through a grant we were able to receive through the No Child Left Inside grant through MnDOT. The Wednesday's Clay Hole Concert Series in Southwest Metro Chamber Farmers Market will begin starting June 5th. That'll be every Wednesday going through October 2nd. Really kind of hoping to build on that from last year. As you recall, the farmer's market used to always be in City Square. Last year was the first time it was at Fireman's Park. So I think we've been working with the chamber to kind of hone in and tweak the layout a little bit. And then if you haven't seen, I think we've put out some information on some of the music performances on those Wednesdays, but we're really trying to hone in on some more of the local artists, and seeing if we can try to draw more people to attend that. We got free yoga in the park on Mondays, starting June 3rd through August 26th, from 7 to 8 at night at Fireman's Park, and then free PIO, combination of Pilates and yoga. On Fridays in the morning, starting June 7th at 8:30 over at Fireman's Park. And then Fishing with Friends Youth Fishing Clinic on June 2nd at Fireman's Park as well. So lots of great things being planned. And then my last update for the night would be on the facility naming rights. So as you know, we're currently under contract with the Superlative Group. We continue to meet with them on a regular basis to get updates. They are still having what I would say active conversations with right around 8 or 10 businesses. So I think that is still something. I was hoping that, once we introduced this opportunity, something was just gonna, happen rather quickly. But obviously that hasn't. And so just being mindful of the fact that, they are on a retainer. I have indicated to them that we would likely discontinue that after August. So I think we're going to give them through the end of August to continue these conversations that they're having with some of these businesses. And hopefully we'll see something between now and then, and maybe establishing that deadline can even create a little sense of urgency. And then I think from there, they do have, sort of a roll-off agreement where they won't be under a retainer, but should a company follow up with them, maybe they've thought about it and then they reach back out to the Superlative Group and want to strike up that conversation again. We would, likely entertain that for up to a year. I think after a year, it's pretty unlikely, if they don't hear from anybody, that it'd be kind of phased out by then. So I'll just keep you posted between now and the end of August, whether or not there's any more traction with the businesses they're talking with.
So yeah, be great.
And that concludes my updates.
Thank you very much, Marshall.
Yeah.
Lot to cover. Really appreciate your energy.
Was trying to get you all home before the Timberwolves game. We're close.
Or are they playing? Okay, all right, number 9, other business, the round table. Terry, would you like to start?
The only thing I have is I attended the Taste of Chaska last week, and it was very well attended and really great city presence at that event. So really enjoyed it, and I thought it was very successful. A lot of people there.
What was your favorite food?
I didn't have anything there, but my wife and my neighbor did, and they had the pork sliders.
Okay, nice.
I attended Earth Day in May, and then I also checked out the bike rodeo too. So it was just fun to see, events that our parks department's putting on that, just are a little bit smaller scale. So that was cool. Good partnerships.
I participated in Safe Routes to School on May 8th with my own child. I will not forget that discussion from a couple years ago. And he has wonderfully asked if we could do that more, but also now he's asked that we can do that more. And we do bike along, did you say it's Koenig Trail?
Yeah,
Koenig Creek Trail?
yep.
And Public Works had put down a new load of rock and I wiped out. But by the end of the day, they had smoothed it out and it was much better.
Hmm.
I also participated in Christmas in May on May 4th. There was a home in my own neighborhood that was part of that, which was extra special. So that was really fun to participate in. And it's always amazing to see how many people turn out for that. And then I just want to express continued appreciation for Public Works for their general trail maintenance. I mean, we just have such an amazing asset in our community and they take good care of it. You're up, Zach.
I had the privilege of attending my daughter's softball game at Community Park last week. It's a double header. Chair Branch was there as well. Her daughters may play on the same team, but it's awesome seeing the park filled up with people enjoying a beautiful night, and it's such a beautiful park, and the parking lot was jammed full, which got my mind going about parking lot stuff at Community Park, but there's overflow over to Clover Ridge, which is easy to find, but it's a beautiful night. It's a beautiful park. It's great to see people filling it up again. You already talked about the loop. I drove by there the other day, and it was great seeing people out there. Just, I looked out, it's like, oh man, there's people out there. That's great. It's happening. And then just a random side note, you've already mentioned her name a couple times tonight, but Erin Link is a real asset to the community and the Park and Rec department. It's great seeing her at so many public events, and just anytime I see her out and about, at the community center, at Target, she's always just such a beacon of great energy and enthusiasm. I think she represents the city really well, and we're really lucky to have her. That's all I got.
I have played the loop. It is amazing. Everyone must go. It's kind of crazy growing up in Chaska, and now it goes the other way. You play it in the opposite direction. So that's a little crazy for me, having grown up and played the par 30. But
Favors right-handers, right?
yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
So I did not lose any balls this year when I played. So it's just great because of the undulation everywhere. It's nice to look at, and it challenges everyone. My husband's a fairly good golfer. I'm not too bad, but anyone can work on their game there. And it's perfect for kids. So if you're kind of intimidated by golf, lots of people are, you can play there because you're not forced to keep up with the pace of play. I mean, to an extent, maybe, but it's really open for anybody. So I think that just also speaks to everything that Chaska continues to do, be an inclusive community where you can play pickleball at maybe less intimidating places than other communities, golfing, what we're trying to do with the Miracle Field. And it's just really impressive that the community keeps doing things that are inclusive for everyone.
Thanks for that feedback.
I also, this past month was involved in Christmas in May, like a different home. Mine was in Clover Ridge, and just amazing the transformation that can occur in one single day, and just how grateful those people are. And it's just very satisfying to have such an impact on just a single family. Thank you, Mary, for your organizing all of that, I know. So that was a fun day.
I went to this Chaska High School play, the play that goes wrong. It's not showing anymore, but it was a great play, and I'm really happy and proud of my classmates for being able to do something like that. And recently I went to the Arboretum on a field trip, but it was really nice, and I'm really happy to see that that place is kind of like becoming alive after Minnesota winters. So yeah.
Earth Day, my family went out and got trash grabbers and went around Community Park cleaning up some of the wetlands and finding all sorts of really weird stuff. And our kids now make a game. So we've done Community Park, Fireman's Park, and Sunset Park. And we've made it a game where as they go and look for garbage, they basically get to use their garbage items as a coupon to then get a treat of whatever they found at Target or wherever. So that's their new thing. And now they love asking if they can go pick up trash. And then my daughter, so my son always bikes to school. He wants to get out as quickly as possible in the morning. But on bike to school day, my kindergartner wanted to bike to school, so I actually got to walk along with her and see everything. So that was great. And this chair is making so much noise. Driving me nuts.
Don't move.
Yeah, it's like a hazing thing.
No, I was like, it's like, cause I was the last one here, I got the bad chair. So.
Nothing.
This week, so with that said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I still motion to adjourn.
I second.
Sorry.
Nicholas. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay.
I'm just kidding. Sorry.
We are adjourned.